Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for tuning in. I, of course, am Rotype, and man, how do you like this view? It's pretty nice, if I do say so myself. I certainly like it. One thing you may or may not notice is that this area here in Northside, the neighborhood we've called, has started to build a little bit higher. And I did a few things to make that happen, which we'll certainly cover in a few minutes. There are only a few things that I feel like I should cover before we get started today. I didn't do too much work over the last couple days, but just a couple things, like I said, that we will go over. So I'm going to go ahead and move it back to convenient time for the sun. We'll go back into our cinematic mode. So as I mentioned, this area in Northside has started to build up a little bit, and I do kind of like that. I might bulldoze some of these other ones in here to try to get them to regrow into these higher buildings. Sometimes what can happen is they'll get a level 5, and so they won't refresh into a new one when something happens. I have been messing around with the theme a little bit to try and get things to work a little bit more the way I like them. You can see some of it is nice, some of it hasn't. I don't really like kind of these buildings, so I have turned these all off, but they're obviously still here because they need to be either bulldozed or upgraded first. The neighborhood is still very modern, new kind of buildings here. They're not as old as this, and there's certainly a lot of them just look a little fancy, but I am kind of okay with that. This will be our kind of modern neighborhood, but like I said, I think these ones are the worst offenders. These kind of weird, I don't know, they're just ugly. I just don't like them, and they pop up way too frequently. So they should hopefully be starting to be phased out. But to what I did to actually get them to start to grow level 5, it's pretty much just to add this little crematorium in here. If you remember, or I hadn't really highlighted it, but over here I've had just kind of my backup services of different types. So I have started to try and kind of wean off of those and have the city be much more self-sustaining. And part of that was the police station we built, what was it, 2 episodes ago or whenever that was. And then obviously right across the street, we covered there was the fire station in there. And another thing was the death care here. So I went ahead and put a crematorium in here. I don't really like them too much, but it's not super noticeable, I think. It just kind of blends in sort of, well enough. As I go in and detail this discovery point, I might actually just add maybe another fence here just to make this, I don't know, this fence just kind of sticks out, looks kind of dumb, but we'll get to that a little bit later. So let's see, what else was done? I did a lot of zoning in Nora here, which if you remember is this neighborhood north of Ralston Avenue, which by the way, when the new expansion and patch comes out, we'll be able to actually name some of these roads, which will be nice because we can really start, I can label this Ralston Avenue, and then we can really start getting some of these things, these neighborhoods, a little bit more personality, which I'm excited about. It should be pretty cool. So you can see I just kind of zoned in here, and what I filled in is a mixture of the international theme, which is what the north side is on. This is just pure international theme, and the tall New York theme, which I have over here. Now, I don't have a ton of offices in the tall New York theme, and that's what I've zoned in here for the most part. We can turn this on here and you can see, we don't need that up. You can see this is almost entirely offices because even now we're still in demand for offices. So most of this is offices. I did zone a little bit of commercial, but you see the next thing obviously is I made this district Midtown, and I don't normally like to just kind of give generic names, but this one just seemed to fit. I didn't have anything else on the top of my head, and it will be almost pretty much the middle of town. So I kind of like that. And I gave it, again, mostly offices. We'll go back here. Some commercial here on the side, some of the more traveled areas like this avenue. And let's see, what else? That's pretty much it for in here. You can see there's still a lot of these empty spaces that are going to need details. So I will definitely go in and do that. Like, for example, this area, I think I want to extend into a park. It has this nice monument thing here, and I want to stretch it into this whole area will be a park. Anything that has these kind of weird corner shapes, I'll need to go in and just add probably just some tiling and maybe some seats for a lunch area, stuff like that. Let's see. So there's in here, I'll do this. This may be like a back plaza area. A similar thing here. So there's still a lot of work to be done. It makes it a little difficult to do on camera because you can imagine if I'm down in here doing this, number one, I have to be moving the camera about a lot to do that, which I don't like to do already very much in live portions, but especially when I'm sped up in time-lapse modes at 6x speed. This one I might be able to do like this, but really when I'm detailing, sometimes I really have to get in close. And not only do I have to be moving the camera around a lot, I can end up, as you can see, going right through a building. So it's better now that I have the camera. Oh shoot, I don't remember the name of the mod, but there's a particular mod, Camera Additions or Camera Tools or something, that lets me go through the buildings instead of getting that weird bobbing that sometimes you get if you're trying to, let's just say you're trying to zoom in here and instead of going down, it'll like clip, or it will not clip on the building and end up with a big bump. So that helps, but I feel like a time lapse is not well suited for this just because I'll be clipping in and out of buildings and weaving around. So you'll have to tell me if you want it, but my intention is for maybe next episode, maybe the one after that, just to kind of finish in some of these areas. And then I'll obviously show everyone in live sections here. We'll just kind of take a scan through and cover what I've done. But I haven't done any detailing now so far. I've just done this zoning. So this is all accomplished with zoning and managing the themes that grow in different areas. So I started to say I do have the mixture in Nora is the tall New York and international themes. It's the same in Midtown. So you can see this is just going to be a modern-ish type area that also will have some older buildings. So, you know, you see stuff like this grows in. And I think already it looks great. I was worried at first to how to get it to look decent. I was doing a bunch of research and searching around on Google Earth and all these different things, trying to figure out how to make things look realistic. And what I've come up with, and this is the way I've tailored my themes for the growable buildings, is I've tried to reduce the number of buildings that have, I guess, street offsets is maybe the way what they're called. But basically all these buildings, so this is actually a bad example where it's offset from the street by a lot, versus this building right here is right up against the street. So what I tend to find in my research, just going through various cities across the United States, is that in dense areas, buildings don't have these parking lots in front. They tend to be right up against the street. And if they do have a parking lot, it might be kind of the back area, or maybe, you know, if I bulldoze this would be a parking lot like attached to this building and would have a fence kind of around it. So I tried to make sure that the theme that grows in here doesn't have too many of these. And again, this is a bad example because now we've just got several with these, but I think it does. I think it helped what I've done so far, and I'll continue to go in and tailor them to try and remove these parking lots, because this is an area that's very dense. And like I said, what I've seen is that in very dense areas, you tend to have either wall to wall, which is what I struggled with, actually. I was trying to find things that were entirely wall to wall. They don't necessarily have to be wall to wall. You can have little alleys and spaces in between, but the offset from the street tends to be very low in what I've seen to be dense areas in United States cities. So that's kind of how I've gotten this kind of feel. So like I said, obviously there are a ton of details to do, and I'll definitely have to get in and do that. But I feel like we've made some good steps just with the zoning. So let's see, what else have I done? We talked about the crematorium up here in Northside, and that's really what got Northside starting to grow. I also added one. I can't speak highly enough for this crematorium here, which looks exactly like a office building. I think it might even be a vanilla office building. I don't have any around here, but it blends in perfectly. And so I've added some crematorium services here. You can imagine there probably, is like a morgue in the hospital, but these just function as hospital. And then this is just an office building and parking garage and whatnot. So figured that would be good. It also helped, you view the infograph and it shows you where you have Hearst coverage, and we didn't have Hearst coverage down here. So I went ahead and added that. Let's see, the next thing, I'm looking at my list here to make sure I show you guys everything that I did. So the next thing that I spent a little bit of time on was figuring out how I wanted to decorate this highway. And this was actually kind of convenient because I did a little driving between the last episode and this one. I know I don't own a car, so I normally don't drive around very far, but I did between this episode and the last one. So we were driving on a freeway and I was able to really take a look, or I knew to take a look at what the freeway actually looks like. Because if you'll remember, I used to have it like this, and maybe some cement walls and stuff that used to be there, but there was this kind of grass, dirt stuff, and sometimes I filled in the gravel, sometimes I didn't, and it never really looked right to me. It just looked weird, but it also never really looked right to me like this either. So took a look, like I said, in real life, and again, when I got back, a little bit of Google mapping and stuff, and what I saw is that in urban areas where you see these 3-lane highways, and I apologize, we're dropping frames like crazy, so I'm going to pause. You see, or at least I tended to see, noise barrier type walls on the outside. I figured that makes sense. You know, I've lived around enough highways in my life to see that a lot. And in the middle, it's usually just wholly paved. Even if it's a very broad bit of space here, if it's in an urban type area, it's paved. And then there are usually these Jersey barriers, either one or two, one on each side here, to kind of delineate. I guess this must be a safety thing. You know, you need the barrier between the 2 lanes of traffic with little spaces for, you know, service trucks or who knows whatever else going on in here. So what I did is simply just place some Jersey barriers here. And you can see I paved it all down, placed some Jersey barriers. I did a little bit on the outsides as well, just kind of getting some concrete walls or some Jersey barriers depending on the space. Like, for example, here's a good one where you don't really want a concrete wall here, because if you're coming down this on-ramp, you can imagine you're coming this way and you know you need to merge left. You need to be able to look over here and see if there's any traffic. And if there's a concrete wall, that's just asking for trouble. So little things like that I noticed and tried to implement into the city pretty simply, just with some concrete walls and barriers and stuff, and switching between, here's a good example. See, you see the high level of the wall and the low level of the barrier. So I just went through and cleaned this up, and I think it looks, I mean, it doesn't look that different, but it's more realistic. So to me, you know, I like it. It makes sense in my head, and it's good. Oh, got a little bit of surface painter failing over here. So let's just finish this up. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, you know, the small things that just make things look a little more realistic. I like it. And so let's see, that was that. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. That is what I accomplished between episodes. Like I said, not too much, but just keep you all informed and show everything that has been worked on. So with that, we're going to jump actually across town and finally go over here to this point. I want to try and get this corner done today. I want to get this taken care of. It's been just this empty space. This whole area is more or less done, except for this. And obviously this side, we have a lot to do, but I want to get this taken care of. So today we're going to build a nice little park here and probably zone in some more buildings to grow in here. And the first thing I'm going to do is actually bulldoze all of these buildings, because I was thinking about how I wanted to set up the park and whether or not I wanted it to be kind of behind buildings or in front of buildings. And again, doing a bunch of research and stuff, I noticed that parks tend to be on the other side of a street with no building on that side of the street. That way you get kind of a park view off of the front. You know, if you had like an apartment in this top floor, and I mean, how great would that be? Just let's see if I can get the camera here. Like that is your view out of your, I don't know, kitchen window. You've got this nice park, and then out on, I mean, that's a nice view. I'll take that. So let's see. First thing, this is bothering me, so I got to fix this. Let's just move it and try to. Now this is going to be a little finicky because we're dealing with the water, and these seawalls are always touchy. So I'm going to try for as much as I can to not actually deal with this side, leave this alone, and just work on the garden in here. So let's see, let's clear that back out. Yeah, so what I'm thinking for this area, we have this fire station. We're in this tall New York themed area where we have a lot of brick type buildings. So you saw I already bulldozed those. And what I'm just going to do, I think, is put a nice little brick wall around it and make this a little garden, probably a little cut through, maybe up to the fire station and another one down this way. Possibly put in a crosswalk here so you can get to the seawall. But I think I'm going to do that in a time lapse. So because it's a lot of detailing, it's, yeah, like I said, mostly detailing. So we'll do that in a time lapse. And I might as well go ahead and kick that off right now. And I will be back as soon as we're done. Okay, welcome back. I hope you liked that little time lapse. Pretty brief, but just getting this park taken care of. Although, now that I'm looking at it, this tree needs some things on the bottom of it. So you'll get a little piece of what I decide to do about decorating here as I just finish up this last little piece here. Tend to try these forest grasses, but sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Let's see what else we have here. I do have the new version of Lantana. This is the bloom one. I want to take a look at the non-bloom version. This one, 2.0. Let's see how this looks. Yeah, maybe a few, but I do need some bigger bushes. Let's grab some of these. Yeah, that's pretty bright. I think I have one that's a little more, oh, it's even more bright. Well, that's probably the LUT then. I do really like this bush number 8, you've probably noticed. And then we'll just finish that up with, I don't want the pink one. I just want the regular old shady bush. It's pretty tri-heavy, but sometimes you just can't get around the fact that it looks good. So I don't want to completely cover up that lantana, so let's just drag it out a little bit. Whoops. I feel like something happened. Oh, I pushed space instead, that's why. And get another dark one in there for good measure. There we go. Okay, so now that one is taken care of. So, sorry for that short little detour, but I like how this part came out. It's pretty simple, like I said, but now if we go back to this, you know, kitchen window or whatever I was talking about here, this is your view out of your apartment. It's fantastic. People hanging out at the park. These PPGs are pretty cool. They get people just hanging out. You know, you can imagine they're not actually tossing a frisbee, but you can imagine they're tossing a frisbee or having a little cookout or picnic or who knows what. So that was the purpose of making this a, what's it called, a zonable pedestrian road. Now that I was just about to say I need to make sure you're not allowed to drive on it, so I'll have to go take care of that. But I did want to do it over here because, frankly, I didn't want to touch this road with the seawalls on it, because anytime you attach new nodes and things, it can cause problems, both water problems and seawall problems and zoning problems. So I tend to avoid it. You know, you like to get the seawall done and then leave it alone. So now this I'm gonna have to fix. Let's go in here and say vehicle restrictions, and we'll just select, I think, I guess I can't select both of them, but we'll just go in and deny all of these things. Not allowed to drive on this road, please. It'd be nice if Traffic Manager and what is it, Next, the network extensions mod that gives you these roads, would work together and automatically do this, but it's not too big of a deal for me to do it myself. So yeah, there we go. We just have our nice little park. I suppose it should have a name, although it is now just kind of a section here in Folks Quarter, but it is a nice little park. So I'll go ahead and cut out a little corner here of our district and give it a new district all by itself. This doesn't actually do anything in game, but I don't know, it makes me feel better. It gives this park a little name, and if I ever actually get around to building myself a nice Google Map type thing of the city, I have Cinematographer installed, but I haven't actually used it on this city in quite a while, or I don't know if I've used it ever, but these little district names will pop up in the Cinematographer output, and they don't necessarily always look right. You know, this is a park really, so it should show up in green and stuff, but it'll show up and remind me to actually go in and make it in Photoshop or something, which is a lot of work. That's why I haven't actually done it yet, but it's a reminder for something to do later. So let's see, what kind of name do I want for this park? Actually, I haven't actually given Pedelmo a shout out yet. I mean, I've given him shout outs, but a official engraved in not really stone, but named area. So this is Pedelmo Park. And I don't know, like I said, this doesn't actually matter that much, so let's just give it Parks and Rec. And sure, you can smoke pot in the park. I don't care. Sounds good. And yeah, good enough. So there's Pedelmo Park. And that is a good ways towards, whoa, man, look at this traffic. So that's a good way toward finishing this area. Let me finish my sentence before I start looking at this traffic here. What are all these people doing? Where are you all going? I guess I need to be back in this mode to get the traffic tool. Okay, so we have 52% of the traffic is cars. Ooh, this is nice. I don't know that I've ever actually done that. And a bunch of cargo trucks. All right, where are all the cargo trucks going? Let's see. Will it highlight them nicely? Sort of. I think I prefer to just kind of highlight here. It looks like most of the cars, 8 of the cargo trucks. Here's more of the cargo trucks. So I guess they're headed off probably in here. Yeah, to some of these. What if I click it? Ah, yeah, there we go. Finally learning all the details about this tool right before it goes away, and in the new expansion, we'll have this tool built in. Hopefully it will have all this functionality that I'm now, figuring out. Okay, so let's see. A lot of cargo trucks need to go all of these directions. This way. Let's see, how many are going this way? 3. 18, 9, I guess. 18 hidden things, okay. Okay, so most of them are going this way. to in here. All right, well, what that's telling me is I think, whoops, apologize for that. What I think we might need to do is get some kind of other connection from this entrance. It looks like this entrance, I've noticed this before. This entrance bogs down a lot of stuff both here and now clearly here as well. So as we build out this way, we're going to need another traffic solution on this side. But that is a little bit outside the scope of what we're up to in this episode, because like I said before, I really want to finish this corner. And if we're lucky, maybe this corner as well, but one thing at a time. Now this corner, I don't need to do a park or anything fancy. I just, apologize for breaking sentence, but I changed my mind about these grasses in the middle here, filling in. Just want to, they're good under the trees, but I don't like them in the middle. So let's see, where's I just need another one of these. Let's paste this back. There we go. Yeah, that looks better. I like that. Okay, sorry for the detour, but I don't want another park. I think I'm just going to try and zone this in with more buildings. This is still part of the Folks Quarter zone here, district. So they should come in this nice kind of tall New York theme I've been talking about. So let's see. Do I want a full 2-lane road? Yeah, I suppose I do. I think I kind of just want to, let's see, let's turn snapping back on so this can make some sense. And actually the first thing I'm going to do is draw it similar to this one, just kind of right along this here. And how does that look? Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. It's pretty much parallel with the freeway. And I'll bring it in and connect. Unfortunately, it won't go 180 because, doesn't want to. So I will just go to there and deal with this later. I'll probably do this tiny connection off camera because like I was talking about before, you do things near these seawalls and they get kind of finicky. So that will be a detail I'll have to take care of in a little bit. Now on this end, what I do want to do is instead of, let's turn bending off. Instead of taking this into this alley, I want to connect it to this one. Now I don't know if I want, let's see what does that. Yeah, see, no, that's ugly. What I'd rather, well, I don't know if I want a curve or not. Let's look at this again. Maybe this is okay. This just suddenly breaks into the new grid. And from here, what I can do is start making these little, well, do I want to stick to these streets? Let's see, how long is this? 11 units? Of course it is. So if I go, I really don't want to break onto this street. I like having this solid without any connections to it. Now this one, you know what if I just do this? No, this is just screaming alley to me. So we're going to bring an alley in, and maybe we'll build a nice little back behind area to this fire station. I don't know what would be back there, but something back there. And then these will be just another little neighborhood. Yeah, I think that works. So with that, the next thing I'm going to do is zone in some of this, and hopefully we have the demand for residential. So when we speed this up, let's just see if these will grow in. Whoops, apologize for that. Let's just take a moment and see if this grows in. Nope. Okay, we'll go ahead and force it to grow in. Fix, please. Okay, come on now. Got a new corner building. This also gives us a nice, sort of nice little corner here to try and decide what to do with. So that'll be interesting. Unfortunately, with the way this highway goes up, if I put these concrete, I don't even know what to call it, supports, I guess they're called, overpass, underpass supports, you'll have a gap because the supports are not tall enough to reach all the way. So, okay, so there we go. These are growing in. And I like this. We've got a little back area here. I'll probably try to do some kind of, I don't know, yard, I guess, back behind the buildings. So the next question is, what do we do over here? I think we pause so I can actually control what's going on here. And again, just kind of zone in some more residential, and even here, zone in residential. Now, I don't know how well these two spaces will zone, but you never know until you just kind of zone it, and let's see. So this should only take a second, especially with the forced demand up. So we'll just kind of let this grow in and see what comes in and go from there. All right, here they come. Okay, so now we have the big buildings in. These came in decent. I guess this would be a 2x2. This one, yeah, that's not too bad. They fit the theme. They look kind of nice. Yeah, all right. So this is a weird space. Well, it's all right. So maybe another one of these will grow in there and there. That would be nice to fill in the area. And I'm going to try this as well, just like that. So what do we do back here? I think maybe we turn this into the back area of the fire department. Well, let me keep this running so this grows in. But I can turn this into a yard, and it'll be like a backyard area. Maybe even parking or something. And then have a, you come in up here, bulldoze this one, you come in up here, but then you just go back behind. Something like that. All right, so everything's grown in. Let's pause and zoom around a little bit. We obviously have these little corners to work with. This is just like a scary little alley. I don't know what the deal is with that. That's kind of weird. Maybe it'll go away. Let's let this grow in again. See what happens. Yeah, okay. Whatever it was, it's gone now, so that works. Okay, so that's a nice little alley. I mean, kind of creepy, scary, but, we'll go ahead and bulldoze this one and build myself. Let's see, how do I want to do this? I think what I can do is, I might do it with this because it is going to be a fire connection. So I want the little bollards so the fire department can kind of control what the deal is. And we might as well, oh, that would be too convenient. All right, how bad does this look? Okay, not bad at all, that's fine. And from here, I'd really rather, there we go, I'd really rather connect like that. That gets rid of the bollards, which I actually, in this case, don't want. And I'm not gonna do anything back with this area, PPGs or anything that needs the services. So I'm okay just surface painting, whoops, not Rico, surface painting this area. And this will be the fire department's, I don't know, large back storage yard area. And for now, we'll just fill in these corners. And just like I was talking about in Northside, there's all these little back corner areas that need a little bit of detailing. But for now, we'll just have to do that. Now, let's see if we can get a building to grow right here. Yeah, it looks like it's on its way. There we go. Let's see what comes in, how this looks. Yeah, there we go. We actually get a nice corner building because the game has detected that it's a corner. So that's kind of cool. I do want to not allow anybody to drive in here. Although, maybe what I do is let people drive here and put the bollards on the road going this way. Yeah, that's not bad. So if I go like this, oh, bollocks. Let's try that again. There we go. And this will just come in and you can kind of see it, but I'm going to pretend you can't. And I'm going to disable zoning here. So this looks like this. Now people can drive through, and these bollards I don't really want, but I think it might ruin everything because this road is wider, so it'll mess up the zones. Well, let's try it. Yeah, so that messes up the zones. So we'll go back to this road. And they'll just be bollards there. I don't know, maybe to protect who knows what. So what I do need to do though is change this to no lamp. None. Here we go. Yeah. Okay, I don't want a lamp on this one. So let's just... Can we do it like that, please? Then what I can do is go in and say bollard. I do like these kind of retractable ones. I might as well do this with the line tool. And those are a little too close together. There. So when we unpause, hopefully these buildings will grow back and this will look nice. I can go ahead and put a little fence of some kind here. Let's go maybe chain fence. This one's probably fine. It doesn't need to be anything crazy. Go back into fence mode and this building's gonna grow right in my way. So again, you can see the kind of detailing that is gonna have to happen in the city that I'm trying to do here live, and it's okay, but especially if I were trying to do this in a time lapse, it would be tricky. And I think the last thing, just connect the bollard to the building. That way you can really regulate with the bollards. Now, the funny thing about these bollards is if you retract them, you still have this big square that pretty much blocks the road, but we'll ignore that for now. So let's take a look here what we have. We have this side, which we may make a yard of some kind. Maybe put bollards here as well and turn this into maybe parking, I guess. Yeah, that's not bad. Parking for these areas. And then this side, which I will fence all off and turn into a fire department regulated space. So I'll put fencing everywhere, even, well, I guess these don't have doors, but probably from here back behind all these buildings, just to try to associate everything with the fire department. So I think doing all that will be another quick time lapse, and I will be back when we're done with that as well. unfortunately, that is all the time I have for this episode. As always, thank you all very much for watching. I really liked this one. I think it came out pretty well, and I was happy to get back into the city after a couple days off and really get some more of the detailing done, both the fine details that we usually put in time lapses and some of the city work where it was not as much work just to do the zoning, but it really filled in those empty spaces. So I think probably next episode we'll be back in the city again, doing some of those little things we talked about but didn't quite get to in this episode. But until then, if you want to make sure you catch it, go ahead and click subscribe. Like I said, I had a great time with this episode. I hope you did too. If you did, give me the thumbs up. I hope to see you in the next one, but until then, my name's been Rotype, and I'll see you next time.